Good morning to you from wherever you're watching all across the world. Welcome to Nigerian Decides live studio of independent television. Today, our focus will be on the reactions that are coming forth as far as the results of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly election is concerned. We've seen a lot of that in the last couple of days. Well, specifically, yesterday, former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, gave a press statement that he personally read, reacting to the outcome of the election, particularly with the collation of results and the modus operandi in doing that. We also saw some party agents, the APC, the PDP, and the Labour Party, all reacting to the collation of results, although differently, while the PDP was very, very confrontational and emphatic on their displeasure into how the results were being collated. Same for the Labour Party. The APC felt otherwise. You should expect that. But so far so good. The results have been coming in and giving us insight into how the elections went. But questions are coming forth against the background that before the election, INEC told the whole world that results will be transmitted electronically. The reason for that, we were made to understand, was to avoid a situation wherein there will be unnecessary delays. The election took place on Saturday. On Sunday, we're expecting results. On Monday, we're expecting results. Today is Tuesday. We're still expecting the completion of the results. So you want to ask, what was now the celebration about the BVAS technology that was deployed for the election, if all of these shortcomings that we have seen in elections years before are still very, very obvious? And then there were allegations that the BVAS did not work in sending the presidential election results, but it worked for the House of Representatives. It also worked for the senatorial election results. So too many questions begging for answers. I'd like to thank our panelists here in the studio. From my extreme left, the head of the Department of Chemistry, University of Benin, immediate past chairman of Academic Staff Universities, ASU Uniben Chapter, Professor Julius Iyasere. Prof, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
We also have with us in the studio, also a lecturer from Chemistry Department, Dr. Joe Ubebo. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
And incidentally, I'm also a chemist, so we're going to be reacting today. Don't be scared. The reaction is not going to be destructive. It will be a constructive reaction just to help you make sense of what's happening with the results of elections that are coming forth and all the reactions that are trailing it. Prof, let's start from that plank of conversation. So much promises made with the BVAS, but it looks like the BVAS failed in delivering on the presidential election. And then I heard a story that the initial results that were sent to the INEC portal from the collation centers, at some point they were completely wiped out, and then the whole process was started all over again. Let's get your perspectives along those lines.
Yes, I think I will open with apology.
Apologies to who now?
To apologize to Nigerians. Earlier, that very first evening of the election, I came here and I spoke glowingly about INEC. I thanked them. I said Mahmoud is a professor and that I'm also a professor. And that before now, there had been so much of complaints about the effects of professors at our elections and all that. And I felt proud when I thought the BVAS was actually, I didn't know that it was an armored tank without a firing pin. That is what I noticed that happened to that BVAS. Ab initio, that BVAS have been programmed not to function well or not to function. Somebody yesterday, a colleague of mine in the university who went out for this election said, when you are to upload a senatorial or a House of Reps result, the thing goes like within a jiffy. but that they tried and tried and tried and tried for the presidential. It didn't work and they had to abandon uploading their results. And then I saw a clip also on the media that somewhere in Port Harcourt, a young man talking about how he eventually discovered that he was given a different code to work on the beavers, and it never worked until somebody told him that don't forget about uploading the results, the presidential result, that you should bring the beavers back, and that in his very before at the INEC office they are uploading something different. The clip is on media. You know, when people criticize social media and then you have a crystal clear video of actions of people, we still criticize it. I don't know. The social media is another method, you understand, of externalizing information or thereabout. But here we are criticizing. So what has happened here is that ab initio, the beavers has been set not to function, and it is a big shame. It is very, very unfortunate that the will of the people could this be subverted. But then we are watching. People are watching because people came out as against as what it used to be, you know, and to really cast their vote. Let me tell you, I have been conducting election. I've been collating officers from ward to local government, collation officer. I have severally in the past. The beavers is not a substitute for the physical collation. Beavers is complementary to, it is to check the physical collation. The two are supposed to work in tandem. They are supposed to replicate the results. And where the physical collation around 40, you revert back to the beavers. Okay. And that is what it's supposed to be. But now we are light years back. That is what we are seeing.
Okay. Dr. Joe, let's get your perspectives on the outcomes of this election so far, particularly with the obvious misgivings about the beavers, in spite of the promises that were made ab initio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duke. One really needs to think a little bit backwards and ask very pertinent questions. How prepared was INEC to ensure a success of the elections? The beavers taking the center stage of the seeming directional failings of results, for me, is just one of the errors already associated with these elections. INEC, this is not the first time they are using the beavers. We are all aware that the beavers were tried and used in some previous elections, even to our own Edo State, and we recorded successes. Why now? And like the prof said, when uploading the House of Rep elections, no queries. When uploading the entire elections, no queries. Why the presidential elections? Questions like these must be channeled to INEC. We saw the drama yesterday, if I may use that word, during live broadcast from Abuja, when PDP agents and some other agents staged the walkout on the chairman of INEC. For me, I had expected a correction so that INEC will tell Nigeria that they are an institution of integrity and honor. There must be an explanation so that everybody, including myself, that took time out on Saturday to go out to various places and vote, we be able to rekey our belief in the processes. As we're going now, there is so much disconnect in the belief of INEC's ability to organize a free and fair election. INEC on their own are the ones even scoring their own cards. You promised Nigerians. You made so much praises. We left the traditional style of voting. Unfortunately, if you look back at those days, one is almost taken aback to believe that why didn't we re-emphasize the option A4 that gave Nigeria, Africa, the most credibility in the 1993 election?
Yeah.
Why spend so much money? From 1998 to 2023, if we are to look back on improving the technology associated with elections in Nigeria, the billions of naira spent on technology is mind-boggling. However, what we get at the end of the day is a sham of what is expected. That's why I ask the question, are we ready for democracy? We would have been hoping for a systemic improvement on what INEC has been doing. Fortunately for us, we've had professors manning the position of leadership in INEC. They are masterminds of research. How have we built on reports from the field, from the people on the street, and how Nigerians should feel when they go for elections? But if we are to make a reference to 2023 general elections, I'll say we have shown that we are not ready. So, INEC need to explain so many things before it gets out of hand, because the youths are already agitated. The not so old are already agitated. INEC needs to explain to Nigerians so that Nigerians, as it were, would trust in the path that INEC wants to give Nigeria. I'll stay for there for now.
All right, Prof.
Yes.
One of the things that has come out clearly in this election is the fact that we have overvoting in some polling units in certain centers, leading to outright cancellations. I thought these were some of the things the Beavers was designed to cure. So how possible we're having such a scenario playing out?
But you have seen here that in so many places, Beavers were not deployed. How could a child of about 5 to 6 years be voting if Beavers is to function? How did that child register? What of all those thumb printing in some private areas apart from this? So did they use Beavers there? So that is where in fact, this is opprobrium. There's stench emanating from Nigeria as a country. There's a big shame, repulsive and repugnant. The current election is really, really annoying. It's a shame. Or what? In fact, if it was the other physical assault of persons, of voters, innocent Nigerians who came out, you went because you felt you will not be voted for in such areas. You went to maim and to harm, destroy materials that you and I, taxpayers' money, and all that. And many of these things were perpetrated by very highly placed individuals in this country. It is a big, big, big shame. And so, I don't think they deployed it in so many places. That is why we are now having overvoting. You see, when people talk about that if you are angry, you go to court and all that, do we need to go to court where reasons were supposed to take preeminence, where honesty, where integrity? Did you listen to the EU person making comments about Nigerian election? Is it not a shame internationally, as somebody recently traveled down from the Middle East and said it got somewhere, even in Africa, and Nigerians were treated with disdain. Are we going to continue like this for this great country that we have everything God has bequeathed to us? So it is going to be a very, very big problem. It is a big, big shame. You know, so what else are we going? The beaver is supposed to be some very simple and all that. So when people thought that we were going to move from this stage to voting, even in our retirements, at home, you on your phone and all that, you click and this. So at INEC promised that there were going to be a receptacle of all these results, where everybody will be sitting and watching as the results are pouring in cumulatively. You will know what individual parties have. We were promised that and all that. But when it is hope that they are still going to change, do something because they have power constitutionally to make amend, to review the results before it is announced. So one is hoping that they will listen to what people are saying.
Is that possibility? How realistic it is when we look back to where we are coming from with the history of election result announcement?
Well, this time, see, this is monumental fraud, massive rigging of extreme proportion is what we are seeing here. The evidences are just so, superfluous, to use that word. So why won't they? I expect Mahmoud, for instance, for his credibility, for his name, he needs to do something. If he's not in the chain of this scam that we are saying, he has to do something. That is just it. But let me tell you, few nights here we analyzed. We said we didn't see the security architecture function during this election. I was surprised. I was listening to a clip yesterday, even where one of the presidential candidates voted, that they're asking, where are the policemen and all that? So nobody knew. In my own polling unit, when some boys were going to misbehave, they were helping these old women to go and vote, struggling for which of the parties they should vote for and all that. And I called the attention of the policeman to arrest that situation. He just looked at me. He never winked or blinked and turned away and all that. And I was wondering.
So what's his purpose of being there?
Yeah, so you will now ask. So as if these people were detailed for a particular purpose. And it's unfortunate that we are seeing all of this.
Okay. We also had this incidence of violence in the conduct of this election, and not just that we had violence as relates electoral violence, as it were, where electoral materials were destroyed. We also had incidents where some electorates were killed. In Edo State, 2 cases came forth. One, Elizabeth Owe, as well as Festus Idaosa, who understood, just came to vote from his National Youth Service program. A stray bullet hit him at one of the centers at Ogege, and in the process he died. Quite unfortunate. Part of the things we were told beavers will correct, because the beavers, even when it's stolen, becomes deactivated, and then of course you can't deploy it. But electoral violence still characterized this election. Dr. Joe, you want to say something in that regard?
Of course. Thank you very much. Beavers, as it were, is an aid or an apparatus to facilitate an activity. We had the card reader. The beavers was pronounced to build on the card reader. But let's key in here. Remember, these are apparatuses that also fall in line with computer accessories. It's more like garbage in, garbage out. I will always go back home to INEC. Unfortunately, one cannot now identify the bullet that did the damage to the young man that went voting and to that lady were youth coppers. May their soul find peace.
Amen.
I know that security operatives who were at the center of the elections were not armed. Perhaps these might be bullets from hoodlums who may have worked on maybe making away with the ballot papers or disrupting the elections and all that. But unfortunately, we must also remember that over the years, security operatives have always been warned, and they've gone through all kinds of trainings to use minimal, very, very minimal style of force during elections. That these are supposed to be civil activities. If I recall where I voted, even if I had my own challenges, which I know in INEC trying to also make elections work properly, they also come up with issues, whether they are inactions or actions, which they could or sometimes cannot preempt most effectively.
Okay.
Like the issue of relocating some voters, you know, because of the experiences they had when they went for re-registering of new voters. Some polling units were now established, new polling units. And some voters were not pre-informed of those polling units. Some had to take time to make sure those polling units were identified. Though they sent their website, which could have assisted everybody.
But not everybody can access the website.
Oh, well,
in the villages, no, you can't access the website.
Of course, in the villages, they may also have their own challenges.
Yes.
Looking at the metropolitan sector,
yes,
where you know the website may work. But we even had challenges with the website. But that being said, I had to go around the GROA to identify where I needed to vote on the day of election. Some were running from pillar to post on the day of election. And we were told no movement or restricted movement. Some people who went out with their vehicles came home smiling because some had to drive about 5 miles to their new places of voting. Now, coming back to the issue of beavers. Beavers is an aid. You already uploaded information into the beavers. You come there with your card. The official looked at your card, identify who you are on the beavers, and then you are cleared to vote. In areas where the beavers didn't work, either one would be excused to say either it was deliberate on the part of INEC, or officers who were supposed to move the beavers to those centers failed in their duties and responsibilities. One cannot tell until appropriate investigations are carried out.
okay,
Because I know that INEC as a body has information on all the voting centers, and beavers were provided for such centers. For us now to be hearing that some centers had no beavers is a failure on the part of either those who were to distribute the beavers or those who were to make sure the beavers are at the particular place where to be used. So that, in his own case, must be traced to the person who made the errors. I am trying to look at the objectivity of everything that may have happened during the elections. And Nigerians must also be willing to take responsibilities. Professor Yakub cannot be in Abuja and at the same time be in Oho, or be at Obasanjo village, or be in Iyanamo. There are people who are to ensure that these activities are carried out seamlessly. Unfortunately, I can tell you, most of these people failed woefully. Either through duress or the willingness of even INEC officials who already were stationed to go to various places, falling victims of these largesse that were offered by the political parties. And these are the reasons why I said, are we ready for democracy? Because, let me say something here. If you go down history and study through research what democratic tenets will establish for anybody, the self-honor and integrity you as a person must establish within yourself before you disseminate this. Nigerians must ask that question. How vulnerable are we to external influences? Or how resolved are we to stand by the rules and regulations of carrying out our day-to-day activities? Now we're talking about INEC. And I can tell you, in all fronts all over the country, we've had various challenges, be it in the citadel of learning, be it on the street, anywhere, name it. You begin to ask the question, how ready are we as a people to take our future in our own hands? Because nobody will do it for us. We must tell ourselves this thing so that we forestall unnecessary issues like the one we are facing now. And one must always remind ourselves, the stories painted by INEC about everything put in place to ensure that the election succeeds. Now we are faced with challenges. Are we actually doing our own part? The answer, my prof, is no. We haven't. So we hold it there.
Okay. Yes, Prof, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's good to really legitimize the issues here, or find out can this election stand really? Okay. I expect us to establish that. Okay. But if you look from the foundation, thank God we're all chemists here. Okay. If you went out to sample because you want to do research, and you start wrongly, you sampled wrongly, no matter the amount of result, the type of result you get afterwards, it doesn't work.
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. And so if you look at it, number one, on that day, many polling units didn't see INEC
officials on time.
On time. In fact, following the next day, some persons came still wanting to vote and still didn't even vote. That was on Sunday following and all that. Those people are now saying that the percentages of that, but the issue is, you ask, honestly, does it mean that, like my colleague had said, is it that INEC, they were not really prepared
for the election?
Okay, one, the ballot papers, the ballot paper itself was wrong, not,
so some logos were missing.
Yes,
in Eastern West, Eastern Central,
even Lagos. Yes. And then in some places where even it appeared, the abbreviation for the party was not there. You just find that it's only the picture. That is all you have. Yeah. So that is one other big problem. There are no security men and all that. Let me tell you, when we're dependent on the physical collation of results, your result sheet must be signed by several security agents. The police will sign, a navy will sign, almost soldiers will sign. That's when we're dependent on the
manual collation.
Manual collation.
Okay.
So now that is non-existent, and then people are now hoping that the beavers will work. And now beavers didn't work. So we are even worse off than even as far back as 2012 and all that. So this election is frosted with fraud.
All right. Let me pause you there. Joseph Kadri is one of our crew members, ITV Abuja, covering the election. He will be joining us shortly so he can update us on what is happening at the National Coalition Center. But just before we're able to establish video connection with him, we'll take you to the VCR to take a look at some of the reactions that have trailed the election so far. We got that from the PDP, from APC, and from Labour Party. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo also reacted to the results coming forth from the election, describing it as a sham and calling on INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakub to be on the side of history and did the needful to ensure that results reflect the will and aspirations of Nigerians. Let's take a listen. We'll be back with you in a moment.
In government to deepen this democracy, and he has demonstrated his commitment unalloyed, unavowed to democracy. So he's taking it in his stride. We are all taking it in our stride as committed Democrats, because we do not want anything to derail this democracy, hard fought for and hard won. Now, those who are bellyaching all around, issuing threats that if they do not win, there will be fire and brimstone and all that, I ask you, how many of them were in the barricades fighting for this democracy? They were not there. So they do not appreciate democracy. They do not understand the dynamics and nuances and the convention of democracy. So they have no stake in this democracy. That's why they can say there will be fire and brimstone. In fact, some obedience have been calling for the return of the military if they are not declared the winner of this election. And that is very, very sad. That will show you that these are not Democrats. And I repeat, because they never took part in the democratic struggle, they never acted in deepening and sustaining this democracy, it is easy for them to want to scuttle it. But those of us who were part and parcel of the democratic struggle, we knew what we went through. Our principal went through the crucibles, harassment, oppression, suppression, and the whole works to get this democracy in place. So we are prepared to nurture it. And the result in Lagos is also an eloquent testimony to the fairness of this process. If anything, any lesson is to be drawn from the Lagos results today, it is that when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is eventually declared by the umpire INEC as the legitimately elected president of this country, nobody should complain about the process, because the process has been demonstrably fair and just, as exemplified by the results in Lagos, which we are not even contesting now. We are taking it in our strides as Democrats, but it is a testimony to the freeness and fairness of this process. So let nobody come and complain when we are declared the winner that, oh, they've been rigged out. If we did not rig them out in Lagos, we are not about to rig them out anywhere else. So our victory is established and verified by what has happened in Lagos today. Thank you.
Yes, of course, State Nigeria Decide live studio of independent television. Now we have Joseph Kadri from ITV Abuja, who is also covering the election in the FCT, joining us now from Abuja. Joseph, good morning. Thank you for joining Nigeria Decide live studio.
Very good morning to you.
Thank you. So share with us.
Very good morning to you, Sonny Duke.
Yes, just go ahead, Joseph. Go ahead. Tell us what's the situation
studio.
now at the
Good morning.
National Coalition Center.
Yeah, updates from the Coalition Center is, you look at it from so many areas. First is the fact that the environment leading to the Coalition Center is heavily secured with deployment of virtually all the military and paramilitary operatives. And of course, in that particular area, the Central Business District, if you are coming from the NNPC towers, and of course, if you are going to Area 11 where it is close to the NTA, or if you are going to what you call your Obasanjo way, that particular these particular areas are cordoned off by security operative with their very heavy duty vehicles. And so for anyone that want to, do something around that area, it is a no-go area for you. Even us, journalists, you have so many questions to answer when you are driving to the National Coalition Center, because it is believed that the area needs to be, security tight as the coalition is ongoing. And we have seen that the coalition comes in batches, in 3 or 4, depending on the state that are available, except for Ekiti that presented alone, and others at that time were not around. But as at now, for any call it segment that wants to have presentation, it is in batches of 3, 4, as the case may be. So for now, the Coalition Center will be resuming by 11 a.m. And most time when a time is given for resumption of Coalition Center, it is plus or minus 1 hour. So that 11 a.m. may be 12 p.m. But the point here is that no one is expected to go in after the chairman is already seated. So journalists, you just have to be there between 9 and 10 while you are waiting for the 11 official time. But that 11, usually they don't start until about 30 or an hour before you see the secretary of the Coalition Center coming to make announcement, telling journalists and civil society organization, as well as observers, local and international, that the exercise is about to commence.
Fantastic. Yesterday, we saw some of the results announced by INEC at the National Coalition Centers. At some point, expectations were still high on more states, coalition officers, electoral officers coming to the FCT. What do you make of the feeling in the FCT as it relates to the workability of BVAS that was originally designed to fast-track and facilitate the early announcement of this result, early collation of this result? What we're seeing today now, this is being done manually. Election took place on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, today is Tuesday. The full results have not been gotten.
Yeah, for the FCT, the beauty with the BVAS is the fact that when you bypass, the BVAS will make it clear that what happened in the polling unit is more than the number accredited. Just like the INEC chairman explained yesterday repeatedly. When you feel you want to be smart, and of course, this smartness is not peculiar to a certain politician or political parties. Somehow, politicians, party faithful supporters are overzealous. And when they didn't follow the process, you discover that at the end of the day, it will show. And that is what we have been seeing in some of the elections that were cancelled in some of the FCT. The issue is largely on overvoting, particularly the Abaji area council, where you have the number of, where you have the total vote is far and above the total number accredited. You understand? So with that number of persons that vote is bigger than those accredited, the law says clearly you must cancel the election in that particular area, because you cannot begin to pinpoint which was accredited and which was not. So the best thing to do in that circumstance is to cancelled the result in the polling unit that recorded overvoting. And that was what has happened in Apache. And same thing has equally happened in the Buhari Area Council. So the Buhari Area Council also had that issue where the total number of vote cast is far and above the total number of accredited voters. So Buhari, as we stand, is cancelled. Apache is cancelled.
What's the implications of all of these cancellations for the outcome of the election? Then talk to us about some of the pockets of electoral violence that were witnessed in some areas in Abuja, like snatching of ballot boxes, and do we have updates on those?
Yeah, particularly that's happened in Gwagwalada Area Council. You know, the FCT has 6 area councils. Gwagwalada, Kuje, Kwali, Abaji, Buhari, and of course the biggest area, the biggest local government, if you want to use that word, the Abuja Municipal Area Council.
Okay.
6 of them. But the violence was recorded in the Gwagwalada axis of the Gwagwalada Area Council, where some overzealous party members, or I call them party faithfuls, went to a particular polling unit, snatched the ballot box. And of course, before this election, people were told, don't only vote. When you vote, guide your vote. When you vote, protect your vote. So for some voters who believe that they have spent, considerable amount of their resources, especially time, waiting and voting, someone just come from nowhere and want to scuttle the process. So that made some of them to actually, have this interface with the hoodlums, and it really resulted in a very terrible experience.
Okay. Quickly, Kadri, I'd like to know what is the update from the National Coalition Center. We know that the coalition and announcement of results will continue today. Do we have update on that? Quickly, share with us.
Sorry, it is breaking. I didn't get the last part.
I'm talking about the collation of results at the National Coalition Center. We know that it's continuing today. Do you have an update on that, or what's your update?
Yeah, it is going to continue by 11 a.m. Like the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, announced that we are to reconvene by 11 a.m. And most time, when he says we are to reconvene in a particular time, it is plus an hour or 30 minutes. Why? Why? Because if the professor is seated, no one will be allowed to enter into the hall.
Okay.
It is for security purpose.
Okay.
And so between 10 and 10:30, we are supposed to be in the center. Otherwise, if he is seated along with his national commissioners and with the CSOs and both local and foreign observers,
yes,
no one will be allowed, journalists will be allowed to go in. Okay. Because most time they have somehow a waiting room where they all wait for themselves, and as soon as their number is complete, they move in, somehow like a procession to the podium. And so what we do as journalists most time is to try as much as you can to be there at least 30 minutes before the time.
Fantastic.
And so that is for the continuation, the information on continuation of our coalition for this morning.
Okay.
But we all saw what happened yesterday, where some party agent
well, the network is really breaking out. Yes.
The provision of the law,
okay,
since the result to be uploaded in the server was not done. But what the chairman kept on saying yesterday, as well as some foreign observers that we interviewed, they made it clear that the process has started. At this particular one, a former parliamentarian in Ghana, I had time, discussing with, he said, as long as the process has started in the National Coalition Center, it must be completed. You can't stop it. That those gray areas they are raising, especially the update of the results on the INEC platform, should have been done at the state level, the polling unit, the ward, the local government, and at the state level. If those issues are not done there, you cannot start it here. And the Constitution or the electoral law did not say that if it is not uploaded on the server, you cannot, have the result presented manually. In fact, the National Coalition Center does its collation manually. That is the business of the National Coalition Center. And relevant section of the Electoral Act also empowered INEC to, continue with the process. INEC has the powers to stop or to continue. So the whole thing about the walkout yesterday by the PDP, Labour Party, many other parties followed, but after that storm calmed, we just discovered that they all came back and we're announcing one after the other that they are still with the INEC, they are still in the coalition center, they believe in what INEC is doing, and they will continue the process until the coalition ends.
All right, Joseph Kadri, ITV Abuja, joining us live to give us an update on the election from the Federal Capital Territory. Thank you so much, Joseph. We'll keep tabs with you. Hopefully, much later today, when the National Coalition Center reopens, we'll be able to have more updates from you. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you so much.
Okay, now we'll take you back to some of the reactions that have trailed the collation of results so far. Earlier, we heard the APC agent or spokesperson reacting to the collation of results so far, saying that with what has happened in Lagos, which the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi won, is a testament of the openness, the transparency, the fairness in the conduct of the election, and that nobody should have any reason to feel otherwise if peradventure the results, overall result is announced and is in favor of their presidential candidate. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that one. But let's look at some of these reactions and then we'll be back with you. We've got the one for the PDP, Labour Party, and the one President Olusegun Obasanjo also asking INEC to discontinue the process.
By state, just like the way they are displaying the collated results they are presenting. And that is the only way to test the veracity and authenticity of these results. If not, we are only here to endorse the fraud that has been done from the unit to the ward to the state. We are not here to rubber stamp infractions. We are not here to rubber stamp the abnormalities that have been done. We are here to check them. But the national chairman of INEC is not giving us opportunity to question what they are doing. He's saying that all has been done, meaning we are just here to rubber stamp. And we are going to prove that we are not here to rubber stamp. We have no other country to call our own but this country. We are going to do everything humanly possible to make sure that the right thing must be done.
What exactly are you going to do now, you and the other political parties?
To respond to us, then you will see the action we will take. But we want to tell you, that we will not allow, having suffered a pain in this country, having suffered poverty, hunger, kidnapping, killings, we will not allow a continuation of failure. We must make sure that the right thing is done. And national chairman is putting his integrity on test. We are putting his integrity on test. Nigerians are watching. The world is watching. Even the dead are watching.
We made such comparison, and they are substantial enough to compel us to make this statement this afternoon. With regards to what we shall do, if INEC is heedless of what we are saying here, I think the natural progression is to call for the cancellation of the results. we expect that what we are saying now will be taken into consideration. Do a comprehensive review of the exercise to the satisfaction of the Nigerian public, the political party, and then on the basis of that, request, we will then decide whether it makes sense to continue or not. If what was discovered was substantially not in compliance, with the tenets of free and fair election, of course, we request that it should be cancelled, like any reasonable member of the public would do.
An appeal for caution and rectification. Nigerian brothers and sisters, greetings to you all. I am constrained to speak at this point, and I crave the indulgence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency General Muhammadu Buhari, to make this statement because I've had opportunity to keep him aware of what I know is happening and the danger looming ahead. On many occasions in the past, I have not hesitated to point out lacuna in the action of the President and his government. But as far as the election issues that we are now facing are concerned, the President has proved beyond reasonable doubt that he will want to leave a legacy of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections. Until last Saturday night, February 25th, 2023, the good and noble plan and preparation for the elections seemed to be going well. For the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, a lot of money was spent to introduce Bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, and the server for immediate transmission of results from polling units. It is no secret that INEC officials at operational level have been allegedly compromised to make what should have worked not work and to revert to manual transmission of results, which is manipulated and the results doctored. The chairman of INEC may claim ignorance, but he cannot fold his hands and do nothing when he knows that election process has been corrupted, and most of the results that are brought out outside BVAS and server are not true reflection of the will of Nigerians who have made their individual choice. At this stage, we do not need wittingly or unwittingly to set this country on fire with the greed, irresponsibility, and unpatriotic act of those who allegedly gave money to INEC officials for perversion and those who collected the blood money.
Okay, former President Olusegun Obasanjo there giving a statement on the conduct of the election and then the procedure for the collation of results, which of course he has described in words that showcase how condemnable this very part of the election is. Quite unfortunate, quite unfortunate. But we're just on the verge of calling it a wrap on this first segment of our discussions on the 2023 presidential election and National Assembly election for today. We certainly will be back here much later. But before then, let's get final words from our panelists here, Professor Julius Iyasere. You can see the chains of reactions trailing this election. So far from what we played is actually 1/4. One person or one group seems to have a dissenting voice as far as this election is concerned. That's expected. What are your thoughts on the final note?
It's heart-rending, really. It's bewildering what we are saying. There are people, in spite of the efforts that have been made, the money that Nigeria has spent, that some persons will go design ab initio to make the system fail. But the truth about it is that for how long are you going to continue to subvert and eventually suppress the will of the people? It will not last too long.
Okay. Dr. Obasanjo.
It's unfortunate that we find ourselves in this situation and their responses. But the bigger question is the way forward. INEC, from the units whom were supposed to transmit results from the units, you had the wards, you had the local government, before you get to the state level and then national, appears to have failed in those grassroots areas. Perhaps we'll wait and watch the process get to a halt and then do the needful. Maybe I'm very, very sure the political parties will be in liaison with their various groups now to see how those results can be checkmated. Because I'm very, very sure legal battles will ensue after the final results are declared. But I'll seize this opportunity and thankfully appeal to our Nigerians that we may not need to be too aggressively driven now, so that we don't bring before us unavoidable situations. Okay. We know how our blood temperatures are rising by the day. We know what we suffered during the elections. We may just have to calmly wait and then take the necessary actions.
Thank you very much, Professor Julius Iyasere, Head of the Department of Chemistry. Thank you so much for always availing us these opportunities. And Dr. Joe Bebo, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll take a short break. By 10 o'clock, we'll reconvene for our next session, preparatory for the reopening of the National Coalition Center for the declaration of the remaining results for the 2023 Presidential and National Assembly election. One thing that has come out clearly is the fact that so long as the process has already commenced, you can't stop it. If you had misgivings about all of these, you should have raised them at the polling unit level, the ward level, the local government level, or even the state level. And that's what we are being told. But you heard former President Obasanjo saying that the INEC chairman can't say he's oblivious of all of these misgivings about the election, and that he should be on the part of history to do the needful to ensure that the wills of millions of Nigerians is not subverted as far as this election is concerned. It's a waiting game to see how INEC distills all of these and take appropriate action that will assuage the feelings of millions of Nigerians who came out on Saturday, 25th of February, to exercise their civic responsibility. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun. Thank you for staying with us.